ounces. First 12 ounces, yeah. First 12 ounces. First 12 ounces, yeah. Y'all better listen up. This sports talking tough. So if you got a cup, go on and raise it up. I'll raise one with you as we talk about the sports. It's raining stats and rumors. Let us give you the report. This is first 12 ounces. First 12 ounces, yeah. First 12 ounces. First 12 ounces, yeah.
What's up, guys? Welcome back to First 12 Ounces for another episode after Rivalry Week. And boy, was it a crazy one. From the jump, crazy games throughout. Georgia got taken to the wire by Georgia Tech, which was crazy. I mean, 8 overtimes is nuts. We'll start off with that one. How do y'all feel about the overtime rules? Do y'all like the new rules? Do y'all dislike the rules? How do y'all feel about them?
Different to a lot of the changes. I do understand it to a degree, but it doesn't really change. I feel like the reason they did it partially was like that LSU overtime game with A&M and other games that just went on forever. Well, that doesn't really change it here. That's still going to happen when you get to the 2-point conversion thing, and it's just so bad to watch these teams come into these games with like two-point conversions that they're confident in. And so when you get into that overtime, you may have already run one of those in regulation. And then if you're in the fourth or fifth time of doing that 2-point conversion, it's just terrible to watch at that point. A lot of times them trying to find a way to get 2 yards. So I'm kind of indifferent to it. I'm kind of indifferent to like the kickoff rules of the NFL. I think that something was great for leave it alone. But yeah, I don't really like it.
I think they should take players away every overtime. I think after the second overtime, you should go down to where it's 7-on-7. Then if we go to another overtime, it's 5-on-5 and get this thing all the way down to 1-on-1. So started at the 25 every time. Just 1-on-1. Here we go. Who can figure it out?
That'd be hilarious.
Oklahoma drill at the end,
I was
or whatever
gonna say,
that drill that.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, get this thing to 1-on-1 at the end.
Oklahoma drill's the vote that everyone's going to want to go to. That's a good one. Yeah, but I mean, Georgia didn't look their best throughout that whole game. A lot of struggles. You kind of want to look better than that going into the SEC championship, but hey, we'll see how it plays out. Notre Dame took care of business versus USC. Bono, you're happy about that. And then we did talk about that a few seconds ago. Miller Moss is entering the portal as well for USC. Everything's shaking up for that program just to be downhill. But hey, Notre Dame came in, handled business. How'd you feel about the game, Bo?
Although the final score kind of dictates a different story, USC really kind of hung in that game. I mean, the whole time. If you guys sat and like actually watched, USC was actually kind of keeping us like play for play. So I mean, had turnover, gave the offense, and like we've talked all year, short fields definitely hurt your defense a ton. So, which ended up helping USC get their first score on the board, and kind of shifted the momentum a little bit, especially being at home. Shifted it towards them a little bit, and they kind of rode that momentum until our 2 damn near 100-yard back-to-back pick sixes on back-to-back drives there towards the tail end of the game. But other than that, I mean, Notre Dame looked pretty good. Jeremiah Love got a little bit banged up, but I mean, he's got almost a month to rest now. So since we're not in a conference, so we don't have a championship or anything to play for. Already got the W. Thank you. But yeah, Love looked great. He's looked good all year. Been pretty high on him about the past 4 or 5 weeks or so. Especially getting a true sample size out of him. Jadarian Price, great backup, played really well. I think we need to figure out, and I've mentioned this a couple of times, and I thought maybe we had our wide receiver situation kind of figured out there in South Bend, but yeah, Mitch Evans fucking coming up out of nowhere, kind of knocked off the dust a little bit, remembered how to catch a fucking football instead of sitting there and blocking the whole time. But I mean, defense showed up, and yeah, it played out just like we thought we would. So
absolutely, and I think that's our first. I can pretty much. That's our first playoff team right there, I believe. I think I don't see any way they're left out. They'll be the first one put in just because they don't have to play for a conference championship. So I think they'll get put in for sure. Moving on to the new somewhat rival, I guess, OU and LSU. Since y'all play on Rivalry Week, I don't know how that's going to work out for maybe it's just like a first year thing or something. I don't know. Um, but talk about a change in game plans. It was close for a little bit. Nuss went down and got hurt. Comes back in after being hurt and throws a dime. Buddha mentioned it in our group chat because the Texas game was going on, so I had it on a separate TV, but wasn't really paying attention to it. He's like, "Oh, Nuss is hurt," and then a couple plays later, I look up and Nuss is throwing a bomb down the field for a touchdown. I'm like, "Okay, there's Nuss injury, just lighting them up."
It was the best Nuss post injury that he's been maybe in his career. I thought. I also thought kind of like I had said, LSU had zero issues with OU. The only issue was when Nuss was hurt. If you take that possession away, LSU dominated them. I mean, OU's offense had one possession where they did anything meaningful, and it was they threw a bomb over the top and it made a good play, and Jackson Arnold had a good, and there was a missed assignment that Jackson Arnold ran a touchdown. Other than that, LSU basically played a flawless game outside of Nuss getting hurt and fumbled. He fumbled, and then the next possession he got hurt. But outside of that, I mean, like the second half, LSU beat the brakes off of them.
Yeah,
And
I think he started the third quarter. That third quarter series, he threw another bomb for a touchdown.
yeah, I mean, OU, like I said, OU's defense had zero answer for the pass game. Zero. Like they couldn't do anything about it. And then LSU's defense was the best game. It was the best game I thought they played all year, maybe outside of the Arkansas game. I think Arkansas and OU are very comparable teams. Like I think the way they play on both sides of the ball is comparable. So it was a really good matchup for LSU. I thought that going in. I leave feeling obviously the exact same way. LSU had a lot of big plays though. So LSU had a 100-yard kickoff return. You had a 44-yard touchdown and a 50-yard touchdown. Like it all around is good vibes to end the season. It's not a real rivalry. I wish they'd kind of lean in. I mean, it's got potential to be. It's two big time programs. Like I'm okay, lean into it, make it something fun. It was weird on rivalry weekend and not have a game that really meant anything in terms of like emotional rivalry status, but OU's really bad. That's what I took away is like OU's really bad. I think OU was worse than LSU was good, and I think LSU was really good. I think OU was horrible from opening kick till the game ended.
Yeah. Okay. How does this leave you? Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. Looking at the stats, though, basically everything he said, Oklahoma might as well just be Kentucky. Like, they tried like hell to expose run defense or whatever. They ran it 37 times, 167 yards. I guess not horrible, but 110 passing yards on 22. You have nothing else to suffice. They'll probably just invite the run game at that point. Like, you're not going to score a touchdown. You're not going to beat us over the top. We can do whatever we want, you know? They might as well be Kentucky. They might as well just look to be a good enough defense every year to upset one of the top teams in the SEC, but you're not going to sustain it to 10 wins a year.
I got you. So here's my question to you, Buddha. How's this leave you feeling about Nuss? You think Nuss comes back? You think he deserves to come back? Yeah, faith in him more so than now because a couple weeks ago Nuss was under a bus. Everybody was kind of at his throat.
Yeah, no, I still have faith in Nuss. I mean, Nuss still ended up having statistically one of the better years in the SEC, and if he plays in the bowl game, he'll have the second best season in LSU history at quarterback in terms of throwing the ball. He'll be the second all-time leading passer in a single season. But I mean, the interception number is a little high. He finished with it's like 26 and 11, so he'll flirt with 30 if he plays the bowl game. But he had 11 picks, but 11 picks is kind of a weird number because like quarterbacks threw a lot of interceptions this year, like kind of across the board. Like if you look at like Beck or even what Kyle McCord at Syracuse, like he threw a bunch of picks. Like Jalen Milroe threw a bunch of picks. Like picks have just kind of been up this year. Now he's got a lot to clean up. But I think it'd be hard to sit here and say like you wouldn't be optimistic about LSU with Garrett Nussmeier in his second year. I mean, that was his first year starting, right? Like he's a veteran player, but like he also had never gone through a season as a starter. I think it's extremely encouraging that he got into a slump and he bounced back from it and played his two best games of the year, I thought, in his last two games. So extremely optimistic heading into the offseason. Now, does he stay? I don't know. I think on Mel Kiper's board, he's the number 4 quarterback. So, like, he's got first round potential if he goes. Like we saw last year what'll happen in the draft sometimes. So, like, I think he's got a decision to make. I don't think it's as clear cut as people think it is. I hope he stays. I think he should stay because I think he can improve a ton. And I think if he comes back, he's the number 1 prospect in the country next year, in my opinion, if he comes back. But he's got a decision to make. But yeah, I'd like him back. I think if he comes back, LSU's an SEC contender going into the season. I think if he doesn't, you're kind of back to where they are this year. It's kind of where I stand on him.
I think that's fair. 37-35 with 26 touchdowns ain't nothing to sneeze at. Like, that's really damn good. If you have a defense, they're national title contenders, Heisman contender. You're floating 4,030 touchdowns. If you were to be in the conference championship game, you could get there and with before postseason. So yeah, the 11 interceptions is tough, but he's got the 14th best QBR in the country as well. So it's not like he's just out there playing bad football. He could have been helped out by other areas of the team, and if they did, you're probably a national title contender. That's good enough quarterback play. That's better than Carson Beck. Way better.
Yeah. His issue, he made mistakes at the most inopportune times he could have made them this year. So, like, that's kind of where I look at it and go, like, the numbers are clearly there. He's got to learn, though. Like, I mean, he fucked up a lot in spots where it was like, yeah, you just can't fuck up there. Like, hey, A&M, like, you're up by 20, take the sack. Like, don't throw up a prayer here. Like, that's the shit, like, I look at and go, like, you learn from that one. Come back next year and you throw 7 picks with similar yardage, and all of a sudden now you win 2 of those games that you lost, and you're sitting here 10-2.
Yeah, he's like becoming real easy for him at this level, and that's what like you could really. That's the launch pad into your draft status, like you said, from maybe being ceiling, the Bo Nix of the class, the shocker of the first round, and he's obviously doing very well, but that shocker of the first round where you're like, oh, they're just taking quarterbacks now. That's ceiling to where next year ceiling number 1 overall pick if it goes.
How's this leave you feeling about BK going into the bowl season?
I mean, I don't know. I still have concerns that the ceiling is 10-2. I think it's tough. I think you have to look at the ceiling of a coach basically based on the landscape of college football. And I genuinely don't think there's an elite team in the game right now. Like, I don't think when you look at the landscape of college football, I think LSU is really far off from what people want, and people want 19. I don't think they're close to being 19, but I don't think you have to be 2019 LSU to win a national title anymore. Like, I don't think you have to be this elite program, and I don't think they're that far off from that. So, like, the recruiting class is still pretty good. It's still a top 10 class, and, I don't know. I'm indifferent on it. Obviously, the way the season ended helps, but I'm still indifferent.
I got you. Bo, being a former Brian Kelly guy, you got any words of encouragement for Buddha coming from Brian Kelly land?
I mean, I think it's Buddha's. Brian Kelly will, he'll pick you up at those moments where he should pick you up, and then the moments where you think, oh, Brian's gonna shine here. No, he's not. He's gonna shine that little bald spot on the back of his fucking head, and you're gonna go, yep, you need to be out the fucking door, buddy. Like it. I mean, it's just gonna piss you off, and I mean, I think we've seen that this year more often than not. So
he's got to win a meaningful football game at LSU. Or
yes.
He's got maybe one meaningful win, but like these last two wins are meaningless games. You're not playing for anything except to prove that you're better than 6-6. That's it.
Yeah, a huge key will probably come down to, like, does he land those big transfers this year or does he miss them? Because you got some really good defensive players coming in from the high school class, but they are freshmen. So some of those, you immediately need that impact defensively. He missed on some guys last year, and it really hurt him, I think, defensively. You got to hit this year. That might not be his fault whatsoever. Everybody kind of has a clearer picture of what it's going to take cost-wise now than I think they did the first few years. So LSU says they got the commitment to it. That'll probably have a lot to do with what happens with them next year in conference.
Absolutely. Now we'll touch on the big one. the one that me and Shoney were going nuts for. Couldn't wait to get started. Texas A&M, Texas goes in there, gets a 17-7 win. The score looks closer than the game was actually played. There were some mistakes made. The interception, more times I've watched it, it was a tip ball, but it was still a ball that Ewers probably shouldn't have thrown even before the tip. But it happened. This defense is something special. Weisner, 33 carries, 186 yards, averaging 5.6 a carry. He was playing lights out. But I think the point that stood out was the defense more than anything else. The defense came to play, and boy, did they. Combined all together, the A&M running backs had 20 attempts for 42 yards. Now, Marcel Reed did have 60 yards on the ground as well, but shut them out. Their offense did not score a point. That pick six that Quinn shouldn't have thrown happened and made it seem like it was going to be a little bit closer. And there was a block punt that was huge, and another fumble by Quinn that just kind of kept everything going. But the defense bowed up its neck and answered. Another key thing that happened in the game, Kelvin Banks went out with an injury. True freshman Gooseby went in. He played 74 of 81 snaps, no pressures and no sacks. The kid stepped up and played his ass off, and looked great doing it. Now, going into the SEC championship, they're saying, Quinn's ankle's still a little iffy, and they're also saying Kelvin Banks' ankle's a little iffy. So, got to get those two dudes right. But what an outstanding game. Quinn had the longest run on a bum ankle for 26 yards. If he doesn't make that stupid little juke move, I think he might get to the end zone. That little stupid juke move, he stepped out on it. But hey, it happens. Arch looked good when he got put in the game. I like that they changed up the pattern in the red zone by putting him in and letting him run it. But I enjoyed every snap of the game as I thought I would. And everything kind of came to fruition that we've been talking about. Even Buddha said it. Buddha was like, hey, how are they going to score? And the only reason they scored was a defensive touchdown. But how'd y'all feel about it, fellas?
I feel great. Obviously, not too much to say that I didn't say in the pregame. The game kind of manifested its way to go down that path, but this was the biggest 17-7 ass whooping I've ever watched in my life. It should have been 31-0. You got the two fluky turnovers. I guess one's not necessarily fluky. It was a good deflection, and like you say, a lot of people don't think the ball should have been thrown anyways. I like to say I've seen Quinn put the ball where only his receiver could catch it 1,000 times. He probably puts that on the outside shoulder, incompletion at worst. But nonetheless, it was a good A&M. The fumble was fluky. He's sliding down. The guy's hand just hits it at the right spot, right time, and they fumble. But other than that, he was lights out on the bum ankle. And the Arch package is going to be maybe the difference maker for Texas winning the national championship. It's Tim Tebow for his freshman year on steroids. I'm not saying he's the linebacker that Tim Tebow was, but a very good runner, probably faster than Tim. He's got some beef behind him, but way better of a passer. So the moment you start messing around thinking he's automatically going to run the ball when he comes in, you're in trouble. And it's just going to put defenses on their heels mid-drive making that type of change. And I wouldn't even be surprised the way Sark does orbit motions and stuff. If you don't see a package where they're both in and you see him motion Arch, throw it to him, and make the defense commit either to him with blockers out in front of him to run or cover the passes behind you. And just because he already does it with his receivers all the time, do it with Arch Manning, and it really puts the defense in a vulnerable position, especially if you're able to sneak him on the field. But nonetheless, this has been, I was 9 years old when we won the national championship. I was in middle school during the Colt McCoy days. Obviously very fun. I remember it all in detail, went to a lot of games. This is my favorite season ever. First year in the SEC, some of these massive games we played in, some of the environments we've gotten to go to, including the big house early in the year, and then beating Oklahoma and A&M and Arkansas in the same year, and having Oklahoma and A&M, not one of them score an offensive touchdown. This team is badass. It's the most badass defense we've ever had. I think we're the best team in the country. We get our chance at redemption against Georgia. We're on to Georgia. I'm on ESPN right now. They got us opened up at a -2.5-point favorites. I expected us to be the favorites coming into this game. I do think we're better than Georgia. I think you could point to things that we blew the game against Georgia at home. It's still going to be tight. We we were both in physical matchups last week. Let's see which team is probably more beat up than the last one. The quarterback play, obviously, Quinn gets to redeem himself, but I really think with that Arch Manning package and what it brings to the table, that might be what takes this offense from being good enough with this defense to doing more what we expected it to do earlier in the season.
I think the first thing that stands out to me was Elko. The moment was way too big for Elko. And I think the thing that stands out to me for Elko and why I say that is like, to me, like the cardinal rule is like, don't end the game before it's over. And he ended the game with 4 minutes left. Right? Like it's a 10-point game. He should have kicked the field goal there. Because your defense was playing good. It was playing good enough where you would think you'd maybe get another chance at it. Don't end the game until the game's actually over. I thought that was bad on Elko. And not good for us. I actually think he learns from that. I do think he's the best coach A&M has had in a long time. But I thought, like, the score, I think y'all are right. Like, the score is not really indicative. Like, if you watch the game, like, Texas bullied them. They were clearly the better team. My only concern, if I was a Texas fan, and my thoughts going into the conference championship is, like, I think the only way Texas loses games this year is if they create problems themselves. And they did that against A&M. Like, you had the block punt, you had the interception, you had the fumble. Whether they're fluky or not, it's still something that's seemingly is becoming something that's consistently taking place. It just hasn't really killed you except for the Georgia game. And I would think going into the game against Georgia again, like, if Texas plays a clean football game, they beat Georgia by 14. But if you have stupid mistakes and turnovers, then all of a sudden this thing gets sideways. And I thought that was the only way they could lose to A&M or keep it close. And I didn't realize A&M's offense was going to be so inept. I thought they would have some sort of success. I thought they better put some type of points on the board. But, like, that would be my only cause for concern with Texas. Like, when I look at where's Texas's weakness, it's shooting yourself in the foot a little bit too much for my liking when I watch them and go, like, how are you going to fare against teams that can make you pay on a consistent basis for shooting yourself in the foot? Outside of that, though, they're the best team in the country. Like, when they play clean, I don't think there's a team in the country that can beat them. But I do think if they beat themselves, this thing gets hairy when you start playing these big-time teams.
Absolutely. You got any thoughts on it, Bo?
Not really. I think Buddha pretty well covered it. But yeah, I mean, Texas, I mean, like we've seen. I mean, if you guys don't fuck up, I mean, you guys go in, roll teams, keep teams out of the end zone, kicking field goals even, really. I mean, if you guys put a complete game together, you guys control it start to finish, and it'll be perfectly fine, and you guys have nothing to worry about. That's going to be the only thing, though, going into this Georgia game again. It's going to be a redemption game for you, and hopefully, there aren't any short field mishaps like we had last time, which obviously ended up making you guys lose the game. However, second half, you guys kicked it into gear and only allowed, I think, one score, if I remember correctly.
That's
So,
correct.
I mean, as long as you guys can, capitalize on some mistakes Georgia's going to make, because let's be honest here, Carson Beck makes them very often. So if you can capitalize on those and maybe put them in the same situation y'all were in last time, it should be a pretty, I don't want to say a cakewalk of a game, but a lot easier than last time. You kind of know what you're getting into this time.
Yeah.
Gotcha. And fun fact, Texas was elected as the home team for the SEC championship and chose to wear the icy whites.
Yeah, good. Great move. And we play better on the road anyways. Just turn it into a game.
And that's exactly what Sark said. Sark said it in his press conference. He said, "Hey, we're looking at this game as an away game. It's not a home game. It's an away game." So, and right now, Texas is undefeated on the road. So let's hope that plays into it. Let's get into these conference championships.
Well, what about the big one, real quick? What about?
Yeah, we got to talk about OS.
Ryan hoodie on today. Dude, the $20 million roster, out of $20 million, the best quarterback you could end up with was Will Howard. You know what? All I heard was fucking Quinn's a bitch, mullet boy. He left. He went running from the grind. Now, the 2021 Ohio State recruiting class, the only player in Michigan was Quinn Ewers. He made it look easy. Made it look easy in Ann Arbor. And they had 67 passing yards. They couldn't throw a forward pass this season. You have a $20 million roster. Everybody and their mom shoves it down all of our throats, no diddy, that they're the best roster in college football. That's the best team in America. Every single spot they're loaded. And Michigan beats you again in your house without being able to throw the ball. A 35.9 QBR. They tried to throw the game away at the end, and you still couldn't even do anything with it. You get into this. So I've never talked about Mike Elko, and I agree 100% on that with Mike Elko. Ryan Day is just like over and over again the same thing. Like he is dead set. If I'm gonna beat them the way they beat us, and it's like, hey, those are the same defensive tackles that have been whooping your ass. Like, why are you doing that? I've
He,
never seen something so dumbfounding.
he's got a mental block with him. Like I legitimately still think Ohio State's a really good football team.
They
He just
are.
Michigan. He's just got a legitimate mental block where he can't beat him. Like, and I think it's the whole team. Like they
Yeah.
lose that game when they get off the bus. When they walk into the stadium, it's over because they genuinely don't believe they can beat him. Michigan's got him by the balls. It's crazy. To me, you gotta fire Ryan Day because like he's clearly shown like he's not going to win the big game, and you're sitting there. You're basically Penn State with more money at this rate. Like that's kind of what your roster is. Like, and again, like I said this, watching with the family, and my brother-in-law was like, "Aren't they 10-2?" I'm like, "Yeah, but like that's a place where if you don't beat your rival, you get fired." And
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't think he can because if he couldn't beat this Michigan team, what Michigan team is he going to beat? He just assembled maybe the best roster he's had at Ohio State against the worst Michigan team he's played, and he still couldn't beat. I don't know how he beats him because
Well,
I don't
now they're going to have a $20 million roster next year. That they got half that one guy.
like. I just don't know how the heck like. If I'm an Ohio State fan, I'm disgusted. I want to break shit. Like,
Yeah.
like.
Well, and
I
it's like if you're who y'all say you are and you X out M out of everything every year and you do that at the hospitals and everywhere you go, this guy's lost to him 4 straight times. This was like you were 20-point home favorites. You lost. If you are who you say you are, he's got to go.
and they're gonna bring up the deal of how Michigan went on a losing stretch to Ohio State. I think the big difference is when Michigan was losing every year to them, Michigan was losing to everybody those years. Michigan was just bad. Ryan Day's been a top five Ohio State's been a top five program under Ryan Day
Yeah.
the whole time he's been there,
So
and they beat him.
yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's here. We'll get into this before we get into the playoffs. To the play conference championships. You saw more fight from the Ohio State team when they planted that flag in the middle of the O. Then they wanted to fight. Then you saw attitudes and people want to do something. What are y'all's feelings about the flag planting? Because there was a lot of them that happened. So Ohio State did it, Florida did it, Arizona State did it. Who else? Texas did it for the OU game. Where y'all
NC
stand?
NC State was another one.
I'm pretty. I understand the idea of like if you win, you have the right to. I also look at it as a competitor. Like you're not going to plant a flag on my logo. Like I get that side of it. Like I think when Texas did it to OU, I do think it's a little bit different because neither of them stadium, right? Like they planted the flag on the rivalry logo. Like I get and I support. Like if they're going to put a Michigan flag on the O, I completely support Ohio State players having a problem with it and saying that ain't going to happen. Because like I'll put it this way: if let's just say they A&M next year beats Texas at Texas and put a flag down, you'd be real pissed if Texas players didn't respond and go throw it away. You'd be like, what kind of program do we have? So, like, I think the fighting's crazy, but, like, I also, like, it's like we're real and, like, you ain't gonna put a flag on my field. I get that.
No, I think that you should handle. I've thought about this all day. I've watched a lot of different takes on it. I pretty much agree with Buddha. What I think is you should handle it like you handle storming the field. Find the universities. Don't suspend any players because it's 365 days of emotional build-up to this game. Because I can see both ends of it. I can see the end of you're the winner and like fuck these pussies. Let's go plant our flag. And I see the other end of absolutely. You might have beat us, but you're not going to sit here and celebrate on the 50 on our field and plant your flag. If anything, Ryan Day, have control over your program like Sark did and all that. Stop that shit. Have better authorities there that don't freak out and just start pepper spraying. Have more authorities ready for these rivalry games to cut that shit out. Just be prepared ahead of time for, hey, after the game, let's get these guys off the fucking field, do the interviews in the locker room, set up the, Texas and OU, they do more of a like post-fight press conference type thing for that game. Start doing that shit. Like, tell Holly Rowe, take her ass to the fucking locker room. We're gonna ask the questions in there. We need these players hate each other. These fans hate each other. Half of them want to fight. Let's get them out of here. You got to take control over that quickly. Ryan Day was nowhere to be found during that skirmish. I don't know where that little rat went, but he was nowhere to be found to stop anything or help anything.
So I watched the whole thing live until they stopped broadcasting it. And about 15 minutes in, right before the broadcast went away, they show Ryan Day and he's standing there like this. He's like, and he like looks at a guy and he's like, "What's going on?" He like asks, "What's going on?" It's like, "What's going on?" Your players are getting pepper sprayed because they've been fist fighting for 10 minutes. But I agree with SJ here. I said as soon as they started fighting, they're like, people in the house were like, "That's so crap." I'm like, I get why they're fighting. Instead of pepper spraying people post fight, as soon as the game ends, just run police officers and make a line across the field and go like, you have to go, like you can't cross. Like you can yell at each other, but you're not going to touch each other. Like go in your locker room, make your Instagram lives, like do whatever you want to do there. Like why are you allowing them to even get close to each other? That's just planning on the stadium and the security.
Yeah.
You know what I love the most about it, though? When that type of stuff happens, you'll have Joe Klatt or whoever the announcers are at the time. Like, they're so disgusted. This is so bad. Get them off the field. One thing, they're not cutting the commercial. And the other thing, next year's game and for the rest of the year, they're using the fuck out of those clips on Fox. It's just when Dana White got pissed off about the McGregor-Diaz stuff. But, I mean, their social media accounts, every commercial you saw, every ad you saw, was them throwing chairs and bottles at each other. And the Khabib thing, too. It was the same thing. It was all the advertisements. Fox, don't give me the whole song and dance. Be like, it's badass. They're fighting. We all know what it is. It's great for television. Whole song and dance of Joe Klatt. Man, just get these guys to the locker room. No, this is the best thing that happened to your network in years.
I will say, I did not love Sark's press conference where he's like, we win with class. I wanted like, brother, you literally did it this year.
Yeah.
Things, but like, brother, like, you did it this year.
Everybody's pointing that out. Like, dude, you forget about Red River?
I was like, brother, Sark, you did it
and
literally.
Anthony Hill
months ago.
Posted a picture double birding the guy that he got in a fight with and tagged him.
Yeah. That was funny too. And then he deleted it, and you saw what he said?
He said, I got hacked.
He said, I apologize, I got hacked. I don't know what happened.
Which brilliant.
But yeah, I just wanted to get y'all's touches on the flags. Because there was, I mean, it started with, well, shit. I think every rivalry team, they did it. They did some kind of celebration in the center logo. And Texas was about to get to do it, and then the cops stopped them, and then Sark stopped them. So
it got real dangerous with Arizona State. They had the pitchfork.
Yeah, that was. This could go real side. Did Texas out after and kick and stomp on the logo?
No, they were sitting there talking. They do the fight song. They were having the press conference, and then one player noticed that nobody was out there. He grabbed his helmet, ran out there, put his helmet down, and then the rest of the team started running that way.
But Cuba started stomping the logo, though.
A police officer, and he's yelling at the police officer, going, "Don't fucking touch me!" Like, I definitely saw that. Okay.
Yeah. Cuba. Yeah, Andrew McCuba was doing that.
Yeah, he did it.
Yeah. All right, let's get into these conference championships before we close it out. Starting off on Friday, we got UNLV with the backup quarterback taking on Boise State for the Mountain West and a spot in the playoff. Because here's a go question: does UNLV get in if they beat Boise State?
I was about to say that. Nobody's talking about UNLV, but like if they beat Boise, who did UNLV lose to? I got their schedule. 1 second. They lost to Syracuse and Boise State already. So you redeemed the Boise loss. The Boise game was close, 29-24. Everybody wants Boise to be a shoe-in. Why is UNLV not if they beat them? Tulane, I think they're better than Tulane was, and Tulane was in this convo all year long.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's essentially a playoff game.
Yeah.
It's like how I view it.
Okay, and then your next up, we got the AAC. We were just talking about them. Tulane and Army.
Yeah, I think Tulane's out. Like you lost to Oklahoma. The way you got
And
three
they
losses.
just lost to Memphis too this past week.
Yeah. Army, I mean, would be badass, but they're not.
Yeah, they're not going to get in.
But Army, like they beat Tulane.
Yeah.
They would be 11-1.
Yeah.
Yeah, they would. And they won their
And their only losses to Notre Dame. So
Yeah,
who
It's
already
just
in.
they got
Does that put Army's one conference loss over UNLV with with what, 2 or 3 losses?
Yeah, but here's my question: like, if Army beats Tulane and then goes on to beat Navy and they finish 12-1, why is their resume not better than a team like Indiana? You know what I'm saying? Like when
because
we look at Indiana's resume, like yeah, they got blown out, but it was like you lost to a playoff team.
Yeah. And then you got to
Army
explain why were you going to put Boise State in when Boise State only had 1 loss and not Army when they had 1 loss?
I think Boise State's argument would be that they lost to the number 1 team in the country and they played them to the wire.
yeah.
Would be their argument, which I actually would agree with. Like Boise State's better than Army. I just would be like, if I'm an Army fan, I'd be like, if we beat Tulane, why is our resume not even worth consideration?
Yeah, I got you. And then Saturday we start off with the Big 12. Iowa State, Arizona State. That one's going to be interesting. That's another team, first year in a conference, playing for conference championship.
Yeah, that everybody thought sucked. They thought they'd be one of the worst teams in the conference. I got Arizona State winning that game.
I do too. Scattaboo has hit his
Don't give your
fucking
picks.
stride. Kid's a
Friday,
dog.
Don't give your picks.
Oh, my bad.
Like Arizona State, I like how they play football. I like their head coach a lot. I think he's full of energy, and I just don't like. It just to me it would be fun if they they would be a fun team to be like, whoa, where'd they come from?
Yeah, absolutely. Next up, we got Georgia, Texas, which will be a fun one. We'll stay away from picking it, but should be a rematch. I mean, it is a rematch. Should be a fun one.
Fast, physical football. That's it. Just fast and physical, both sides of the ball.
I think this game comes down to who can capitalize off of the other team's mistakes, right?
Yeah.
Who can minimize mistakes and who can capitalize off the mistakes that are made, and that's. This is 2 of the best 3 or 4 football teams in the country, in my opinion.
Yep. Another team brand new to conference into conference playoffs. Next up, Penn State, Oregon.
I hope Penn State doesn't fold like a lawn chair, just lay an egg. I think they got the talent on their roster to play in this game. They always do for the most part. They put guys in the NFL on both sides of the ball. I don't necessarily think they got the weapons outside their badass tight end, which I guess is all you need. He does everything. But I just hope they don't fall. I hope if they lose because they're not as good of a team, but it's not one of those James Franklin piss down his leg again.
That my concern right now with Penn State, when I look at it, I think the difference in this game is whether or not James Franklin is going to coach to win or coach to not lose, because he's notorious for just trying to not lose the big. He overcoaches it. He panics. He tries to do shit they're not great at. If they play to win, I think this would be a really good football game.
Gotcha. Another conference with a brand new team in the conference championship. Last one, Clemson and SMU.
Dude, I love SMU. They're a team that needs to be taken really seriously beyond this point. I think that if they started this quarterback all year long, they'd be undefeated.
I agree.
I really do. And Clemson, they're good. This is what was expected all year. I think all year long in the back of my head, I was thinking Clemson will limp into that game and then just beat the hell out of somebody and get into the playoffs. But I don't know. I really like that SMU team. I'll look into it more throughout the week. But I think that they're legit beyond just this ACC game.
Absolutely.
I think SMU is really damn good. I think Clemson's also better than people kind of think. I think they played a really good South Carolina team. My concern with SMU is like, can they get over the logo they're playing? Like, and I think that does mean something in games like this. I think if they can, I agree with SJ. I think SMU's a team that can make real noise in the playoff if they were to get in.
And that's our fourth new team. So the top four power conferences all have a new team to the conference playing for the conference championship, which is nuts.
Love that.
Which is nuts. So these are, I'll give them to y'all. This is what Joe Clapp put out earlier. I thought it was pretty good. It's 8 teams that are in automatically. Oregon. Agree? This is they're automatically in.
Yeah,
like,
without it.
Texas.
Yeah.
Yes.
Penn State.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, unfortunately, yes.
Because they're
but-
going to put in Ohio State. So it's like, and I know they beat Penn State, but they've said all year that they won't punish you for the conference championship.
Gotcha. Next up's Notre Dame. That's one we already said that.
No doubt.
Ohio State.
You fuckers. Notre Dame.
State.
I hate State, yeah, that's gross.
Yeah.
Okay.
Next up is Georgia.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yes.
Then you got Tennessee.
Mm.
Well, y'all think Tennessee over Ole Miss?
Well, we'll get that. Tennessee's only got 2 losses.
I mean that's the biggest thing. Yeah.
Tennessee's only got 2 losses. And then
I
your
would-
final for the guaranteed 8 in is Indiana.
No, I don't know. You all think they're for sure in?
I don't know if they're for sure in. I think they should be in.
I
Yeah,
mean they're a 1-loss team. I mean, I hate to say it, but they're the only other like 1-loss team in the Big Ten. So you kind of have to slot them in, whether you like them or not. You kind of have to.
And then
I agree with those 8.
Yeah. And then your next 3 up go with this way. The ACC champ is in.
Yes, obviously.
So either Clemson or SMU. The Big 12 champion is in.
Okay.
And then the Mountain West champion is in for your G5.
So he's saying if
these are your next
UNLV wins, they're in?
Yeah.
I agree with that.
So that would now round you out, and then you'd have one more spot.
One spot left. These are the teams that are on the bubble. He put on the bubble. SMU if they lose. Because that gives them their second loss.
Yep.
Then you got Bama, Ole Miss, South Carolina, and Miami.
I'm telling you right now, I would love to see fucking South Carolina just slot right in there. That would. Oh my god!
How do you put South Carolina over Ole Miss and Bama when they both?
No, and hey, it's just a pipe dream. Okay, I know it wouldn't ever work ever, but oh my god, I'd love to see South Carolina in there. But yeah, no, it'd be that's hard.
Do it. Yeah, I've been these teams I've been thinking about all day long. I would love it to be Scar all day. It'll either be if SMU loses close, like a 3-point game to Clemson, I think they're in. If they lose by 10 or more, I think it's Ole Miss. And that's why. Because they beat the shit out of South Carolina. That's the biggest thing. Alabama's out. Alabama losing to Oklahoma the way they lost to Oklahoma. Should have lost to South Carolina. Look like shit every other week, all year long. 3 losses. I think they're out. I think Ole Miss gets in that game. I think they're the better team. I think it's them and South Carolina with the 2 best rosters. And I think that their wins, they beat Georgia by more than Alabama. They beat South Carolina. They beat Oklahoma, who Alabama lost to. I think that their resume, it's them versus Bama at that point. And their resume is going to stack up better than Bama's.
I just find it hard to believe the committee's not going to put Alabama in if they got it.
So everybody says, yeah.
And I hate it because I don't think they're deserving to be in. I actually think the best team of those 3 as we currently sit here on December 2nd is South Carolina. But you could make the argument that they're better than Alabama at that point and jump them. You can't jump both of those teams. So I think South Carolina is out. I don't think they're in. I think SMU is going to be like TCU was the year they made the national championship, where like if you lose a close conference title game, they won't penalize you. Still, But I do think if I was picking and it was down to Ole Miss and Alabama, I would pick Ole Miss. I think they're a better team.
You do see the policy going on, and Cole brought it up too. They both
I personally, sorry, I was just going to say quickly, if Bama gets in, they're going to get their ass whooped. Whether it's Notre Dame, like, they're going to be a lower seed, and they're going to get beat. Like, they'll play a good defense. Jalen Milroe will be bad, and they're going to lose. Their defense isn't good.
I have to agree.
Yeah, I think the rankings tomorrow will help us be able to revisit this before Selection Sunday, which is this coming Sunday, which we'll probably push back Coffee and Cover 2 and do that. If y'all want to do that on live or y'all want to do it on here, we'll figure it out. But that's pretty much all I got for y'all. I mean, I've been digging into these 3 loss teams more than anything else, and as much as I hate to say it, I think South Carolina's going to end up getting penalized more so. I mean, it's hard to put them over a team that they lost to earlier in the year.
You'd have to put them over 2 teams that they lost to.
Yeah, I don't see that happening. Which sucks for them because they have been playing great ball. But that's all we got for y'all today. We will see y'all tonight on the live for the ranking show. You got anything for them, fellas?
A&M sucks. So does OU.
First 12 ounces. First 12 ounces, yeah. First 12 ounces. First 12 ounces, yeah. Y'all better listen up. This sports talking tough. So if you got a cup, go on and raise it up. I'll raise one with you as we talk about the sports. It's raining stats and rumors. Let us give you the report. This is First 12 ounces. First 12 ounces, yeah. First 12 ounces.